guys, what's up and welcome back to another video. For the scent of the day, I have this little relax candle, and this is scented like eucalyptus and spearmint, and I must say it is quite relaxing. If you're new to my channel, then welcome. I'm glad to have you here. If you'd like to take a moment and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you will never miss anything interesting. And I also do upload every single day on Instagram and Reddit, so if you like content that's updated daily, be sure to go give me a follow. Okay guys, so I'm gonna do a mini review inside of a review for you today. And I always like to do this every time that they come out. So what I'm gonna be reviewing right now are the two Mountain Dew flavors that just recently came out. So this is the first one, and this is called Mountain Dew Spark. And this is the one that tastes like raspberry lemonade. And I actually have one of those open right now. So that's what I'm drinking. And then the second one is right here, and this one is called Mountain Dew Frostbite. And I actually don't know what the flavor of this one is. It's just called Frostbite. So every time that Mountain Dew releases a new kind of flavor, I always buy it because I just love Mountain Dew. It is one of my guilty pleasures. My favorite in the whole entire world is the orange one, and I believe it's called Live Wire. That is my favorite of all time. So between these two that I'm showing you here today, the Frostbite was definitely my favorite. I like this one a lot better, and as you can tell, it's all gone already. And this one here is just okay. It's not great by any means, and I would not buy this one again, but given the opportunity, I would definitely buy this one again. And I also saw this one available in 20-ounce sizes too, so lucky for me, I do like those sizes too. Okay, so moving on from that, I hope that was helpful if you were eyeing those Mountain Dews in the store or anything, because I know every time I see them, I am always intrigued. But what we are really here for today is for the palette review and the tutorial. And as far as the palette of the week goes, this is what we're working with today. This is from Sample Beauty, and it's called the Hydrographic palette. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like on the inside, but I have to be a little bit careful because I did have a disaster with the purple shade in here. So here's the color story that we're going to be working with. If you ask me, this is absolutely gorgeous. And this is something that really inspires me. So the look that we're going to be creating with this palette today is called a spotlight eye. And it's a really simple look, but it makes a big impact. And it's really fun to use a color story like this to create spotlight eye, because you get such a drastic effect on the eye, and you can create a really pretty gradient. So yeah guys, like always, we're gonna do the tutorial first, and then we're gonna hop right into the review. So if you're ready, then let's get started. Guys, welcome to part one, which is the tutorial. And before we get started with the eye look, I just have to legitimately tell you something that I'm so excited about. So you know how I get a lot of subscription boxes? I am just crazy about subscription boxes. I love them. And one of my boxes from January already arrived, and it was my AIA beauty bundle. And this month they kind of did a bundle surrounding this brand called Naturium. And I've never actually heard of this brand before, but it's pretty much affordable skincare. And it's really kind of difficult for me to show you how to use all that stuff without taking the actual 28 to 60 days to test it out properly. So I just kind of want to talk about my most favorite product inside that box. And this is it right here. This is called the Naturium Phyto Glow Lip Balm. And this is what I'm wearing today. This has to be one of my favorite lip balms I have ever used in my entire life. Now, I've talked about this in the past before, but I suffer from really lined, crinkly looking lips. And I've always been on the lookout for something that's going to make my lips look more plump and naturally. Now, if you just look at what this is doing to my lips, I just think it is phenomenal. It's making my lips look plumper, it's making them look more youthful, and all I have to do is swipe some of this on. And I am so impressed with this, I just had to share it with you guys. So if you get the AIA Beauty Bundle box, do not overlook this product. This is so great. Now, as far as prepping goes, I already have my eyelids primed, but I didn't do any tight lining yet. And depending on the day, sometimes I just like to use a black gel eyeliner for my tight line, and sometimes I like to match my tight line to my waterline, and that's what I'm going to do today. So for this look today, I'm going to use a purple liner for my waterline. So I'm just going to put that same purple liner on my upper lash line. So for these reviews, generally I like to do pretty popular palettes that I know a lot of you either have bought in the past or are interested in buying currently. And I'm not really sure how many people really have this palette, but I was just so incredibly inspired by this color story that I just couldn't pass it up. So I really honestly don't think this is such an in-demand palette by any means, but I did just want to share it in case you were kind of looking for this type of color story. You might be interested in this one. And it's also a really good price, so I definitely love quality makeup at an affordable price. So the first brush I'm going to go into is just a small detail brush from this brand called Teximo. And this is just one I got on Amazon. And the first shade I'm going into is called Dory. So what we're going to work on first is creating the base of this look. So I'm going to start in my outer corner, and I'm just going to start exactly in my crease and make a little shape that comes to a point, kind of like where my eyebrow ends a little bit right there. And I'm going to bring this up from the lower lash line to match that outer point. Now next we got to work on the inner corner. So I do the same thing on the inner corner. I start in my crease and I go to about 1/3 of the way in and then all the way down to my inner corner. Just like that. You're going to want to leave the center space untouched. Now once you get your shapes drawn on, then you can just go ahead and fill those in. So for the next step, the brush I'm going to use is this E22 from Bling Brushes. And can you just get over how beautiful this brush is? These are my first ever Bling brushes and I just love them. Every single time I've seen somebody use these kind of brushes, I thought that they might kind of be uncomfortable to hold in the hand, but I was wrong. These are really nice. And with this brush, I'm going into the shade called Tidal. And with this shade, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stay on these shapes and I'm just going to blend out the top line, just so we don't have a harsh line. And I'm still sticking with that same E22, but now I'm going into a shade called Phyto. And what we're gonna do with this shade is we're gonna connect both the shapes together. So you can start anywhere on the eye that you like and just work this to the edge. So you're gonna be blending out the edges with this shade. And at the same time, work your way to connect both the shapes together. For this next step, I like to go into my BH Cosmetics number 6 brush, and this is just a really tiny fan brush. And I'm gonna go into a shade called Atlantis. And with this shade, I'm gonna deepen up the both inner and outer corners with this. I'm using a fan brush, so my strokes are lighter than normal because I'm not trying to put so much pigment here. I just want a little touch of pigment. And I'm gonna go ahead and do the same thing to my inner corner. Alright, so now's the fun part. We get to dig into the shimmers. So the brush I'm going to be using is this Too Faced liner and smudger brush, and I'm going to a shade called Ursula. And I'm making sure to coat the exact tip of this brush with that shade. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in the center of my eye, and I'm going to look exactly halfway down where the green starts, and I'm going to put a line right here. Now the reason I'm putting this line right here is because when I'm packing on the rest of the shadow, I know that no shadow goes above that line because we want a little bit of this green to poke over the purple. So once you get that line drawn on, then you can continue filling in that complete center of your eye that has no shadow on it. Just fill it in with all that purple. Now the way I like to blend this out is I take that same brush, but I flip it onto its side, and I just drag the sides of the brush on both edges of that middle shade. So guys, that's all there is to the top lid, but the bottom lash line today is a little teeny bit more elaborate than what I usually do. But before we get started on that, we got to get our waterline color in there. And with that, I'm just going in with that same exact purple that I went in for the tight line. So I was thinking I want this top lid to be the main focus of this eye look. So I don't want a lower lash line that's going to drag down too far. So the brush that I'm going to be going in with is this double-ended one from Juvia's Place, and I'm going to be using this eyeliner side. And the first color I'm going into is called Dory. And today I'm going to start from the inner corner And I'm just going to draw a line just about a third of the way in. And I want to keep this line pretty tight to my lower lash line. Then I'm going to skip a space, leave the middle bare, and continue doing the blue on the outer third of the lower lash line. Now with that same exact brush, I'm going back into the shade called Ursula, and I'm gonna gently pack this on that bare center that we left open between the two blues. So guys, that's the extent of the eye look. I'm gonna quickly throw on some mascara and then I will be right back. So here's the final look and I absolutely love it. This is one of my favorite color stories that I've ever used and I just think it came together really well. But I must say, this is a look that totally demands lashes. So when I first created this, I did wear some Lily lashes with it, which are a really big pair. So if you do want to see how this look looks with lashes, then click on the link down in the description box below and you can see the original pictorial with lashes on. I do love the way mascara looks, but I just don't think it's enough to really elevate this look. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna take a little bit of a break and then I will come back and we will get into the review together. So let's talk cats for a second. This is my cat Michael, and he's an outdoor cat, so he doesn't live inside the house here, but I want to tell you something funny about him. He is the sweetest cat in the whole world. He loves being around people, and I don't think a second goes by that he's not purring. But with that being said, he absolutely hates being touched. He has an aversion to being pet. He does not like being touched at all. So he's really upset that I'm holding him right now, but I did want to show him to you really quick. But I'm gonna go put him back on the porch right now so he doesn't get too mad at me. All right, now that I had my break and got to play with my cats, now we can do part 2, which is the review. If you love talking about makeup, hearing about makeup, everything about makeup, you're definitely in the right place. And we're gonna be deep diving into this palette, which we already used today, which is from Sample Beauty, and it's called the Hydrographic palette. So as you can see, the packaging is very simple and basic. It's just a black standard cardboard packaging. And then when you open it up, there is a mid-sized mirror inside. And then inside you do get 10 shades. And this is a mix of both eyeshadows and pressed pigments. And keep in mind that pressed pigments are not considered eye safe according to FDA law, but it's really up to you as to how you want to use those shades. Now on the back of this packaging, it says that each shade in here weighs in at 1.5 grams, but on their website, it says that each shade weighs 2 grams. So I'm not really sure which one's correct, but either way, you're still getting an above average amount of eyeshadow per pan. Now breaking this color story down a little bit, you're getting 5 total mattes in here, 2 sequin shades, and 3 shimmer shades. As far as the mattes go, I love the Sample Beauty matte formula. It is ultra blendable, just like they claim, but I find it to be a more buildable formula. So when you apply it with your brush, it just goes on a little bit light and you have to keep layering it up to get the intensity that you want. And I do sometimes like an eyeshadow like that because it's not overwhelming and you can really control it that way. Now the 2 sequin shades in here are kind of like mattes, and that's how I actually use them. But they said the reason why they put the sequins in here are so you get a little bit of a different finish and it gives it more of a satin sheen. And what a sequin is it's just a completely flat matte base, but it has a little tiny glitter speck inside the formula. But in my experience, when you're blending out those shades, the glitter specks kind of just dust away, so you're left with just basically a matte shadow. And lastly, the 3 shimmers in here are quite nice. I'd say they're in between just a normal satin shimmer and a decent metallic. They're not the shiniest things that I've ever used in my life, but they do give a nice finish on the eye. And one thing that I do really like about them is that they apply very, very nicely with just a dry brush. So really quickly, I'm going to show you guys some swatches that I took from this palette so you can see how every shade looks swatched out. Okay, now we're going to get into some straight facts about this. So Sample Beauty hasn't been around super long or anything. They just recently celebrated their 3rd birthday. And for the celebration of their 3rd birthday, what they did is they announced the launch of 4 separate color stories. And this is one of the color stories that they launched during that time. So this is kind of like their birthday celebration palette, if you will. And what they base this particular color story on is the ocean. The color story is reminiscent of the ocean, and all the names in here kind of have oceanic theming. And I really do like that. My job in the military a while ago was, you know, how to have a lot to do with the ocean. So we did study a lot about that, and I just love everything theming around that. This palette is cruelty free and it is vegan. And now we're going to get into my favorite part, which is the cost. This palette is currently on sale at Beauty Bay for only $9.35, which if you ask me is a complete steal of a price. And breaking that down a little bit, it does come to 94 cents per shade. And breaking that down even further, it comes to 62 cents per gram. So if you compare that to market price of similar shadows, this is a really good deal. Alrighty guys, and the last thing we're going to talk about is my recommendation. So upon using this palette, I didn't get any patchiness or I didn't get any creasing. I got a ton of kickback in the pans and a significant amount of fallout on my face. So this is definitely a palette that I recommend doing your eyes before your base. And if you are in the market for a palette just like this, I definitely recommend this one. This is a really good one, and there are 3 reasons why I recommend it. The first reason is because you get a lot of good blend out shades. So they have darker shades in here, and then they have lighter shades of the same color family, so you can create some really pretty gradients with such a small color story. The second reason is because this is a totally blendable formula. It's not going to give you any trouble at all when you're trying to work with it. And the third reason is because it is a small palette, so it's going to take up less real estate in your collection and not be a pain in the butt to store. So yeah guys, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. And if you liked it, I would appreciate if you give me a big thumbs up. And if you didn't like it, hit that thumbs down button. And until next time,